Success is something that happens when you do things right. Now, there's two ways to define success. Success can be something that happens in the open and that is recognized. That can be recognized by an award or as a physical manifestation or of some kind, right? Of an accolade, a trophy, right? So success can be something that is recognized in that sense, or success can be something that happens when it goes very well, but no one sees it. So as the old saying goes, if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? You might be surprised how often our successes can happen when no one is around. And even though we recognize it in ourselves and we can see it. Another variation of this would be if something happens, but it looks like it happened one way, but it actually happened another way. And I've had situations where it looked like I did something that I didn't do, or where it looks like I didn't do something, but I actually did do it, right? Like how often, I think with parents, this happens all the time, right? When the offspring, they do something, and maybe you have a sibling, right? A brother or sister, and it looks like they did something, but they didn't actually do it. You might be holding the cookie jar, but you just happen to be holding it, right? When they looked at you, if they're trying to find out who took the cookie from the cookie jar. Now, the thing is, I've had situations where, like I said, it looked like I did something and I didn't do it. And, let's say if you spent all day in a lecture hall studying, right? And then as soon as the professor shows up, they just happen to show up when you're raising your head up, while you're resting. You're closing your eyes and you're resting, right? Because sometimes, you could be studying for hours, but then, you take a little break, right? And then as you take a break, imagine if the professor walks in, right? And then, now think about this. That's one time, right? But imagine if this happened a couple of times, right? And every single time just by chance, if every single time the professor came, you always had your head up, resting your eyes, right? It looks like you're a slacker, right? Your professor might think you're a slacker, but, even though you were actually studying most of the time, but, the professor just didn't catch you at the right time, and sometimes it's just bad timing. And this is the reality of things. Now, you have other scenarios where you might have people who you study with or work with as partners, and sometimes their actions can affect your performance. Or you might have leadership that doesn't recognize your performance or might make it so that you can't perform at the most optimal level, right? How often, maybe you have a job and for whatever reason, you're not able to fulfill it because maybe they keep tacking on stuff onto you, or maybe you're not trained properly, or maybe, there are different reasons why there could be issues that are outside of your control. And so these are situations where your success is hampered, and even if you did a good job, it goes unnoticed. And, it's like the success is being swept under the rug as secrecies that no one can readily see. So even if you did a good job, sometimes it doesn't see the light of day. Now, life doesn't always reflect reality. And that's kind of a weird thing to say, but what I mean is that things aren't always how it seems, and most of the time, it doesn't matter, Most of the time, let's just be honest, in the grand scheme of things, some things do matter, but most of the time, most things, they're not that important, and so nobody really cares to investigate And sometimes it's not possible to know exactly what happened, right? Because you don't have time to figure it out. And so it's just part of life. And it's just random. And sometimes by chance, even if you do everything right, and you have been successful, right? Things don't turn out right. They don't turn out correct. They're not seen as correct by the outside world. And because of bad timing, and also because it could be the leadership or it could be because others just don't appreciate the work that you've done. I do believe that on average, you should be able to succeed, on average, right? But, even that's not always the case, right? Because like we said, I mean, life is like chances, right? There's probabilities. It's possible that you could have a streak of, it's not probable, but it's possible, right? It's within possibility for all the things to go bad, right? Now, usually, though, on average, you should be able to make decisions that help you to succeed, that help you so that you're more likely to succeed, right? And that comes with time. And so, your inner successes, okay? So, these secret successes that I'm talking about that go unnoticed sometimes, these are things that you carry with you in your heart. And those who take the time to get to know you, they will be able to find it and see its value. So the successes that you have, they stay with you. Even if you might not realize it, but it changes you. When you do hard work, when you do an honest work, people will sense it. The right people will sense it. The value of what you do is inside of you. Now, the issue is that most people, and I know this might sound weird, but most people don't care about success. They really don't, believe it or not. And they don't care to find this either. A lot of times, those people, they're just kind of, living life in a rush. They just want to get things over with. They don't care about, believe it or not, I mean, even most businesses and schools, they're just trying to get out of there. People just want to go home. They're not really trying to, of course, that's not all companies, but I would say a lot of companies, this is how it is. And so, because they don't, and the reason why is because a lot of colleges and schools, they don't have the incentive to always have success. And so, incentive means that there's no reason. There's no, like let's say you have a job, right? And, most people, they work a job and so they're not the owners of the company usually, right? An employee is not. And so they don't really care too much, about what happens. And so that's why they don't have an incentive to work hard. If you worked on your own business, you might care more. Do you know what I mean? If you were an artist and you made your own art, you might approach things differently than if you were doing someone else's art. But it all depends, of course. That's not always accurate because it really depends on the person too. Some people, different people, different interests serve as incentives for people. Or what I'm trying to say, I don't know if I said that right, but what I mean is that people, when they are trying to, there are some people who are loyal and who, it's just in them to work hard and do things, and try to help. They genuinely like helping. And then there are other people who genuinely like working on their own projects. So some people like to lead and some people like to kind of follow along, be followers. And neither one is bad or good, believe it or not, because you need both. And so, it's interesting. That's an interesting topic in and of itself, but it shows that people want to, but the same principle that I just talked about in terms of the inner secrecy, right? The things that go unnoticed, that's still going to happen. See, and that's the thing. Sometimes people don't realize what happens behind the scenes, and people don't realize, and it's hard to find Most people, it doesn't matter that much. You don't have to. In order to run an operation, you don't have to have the best of the best. Most companies don't require that. But I'm saying that it's random because you can't tell what is in people's hearts. And I just said that for people who are looking for it, yes. But most people aren't looking for it or care to look for it. And so in that case, it makes it so that it's just more random. And then of course, you don't know until you meet the person, And so there's just randomness to life is what I'm trying to get at. I still believe that if you do what is right and take the time to perfect yourself and learn as much as you can and build successes within yourself and actually do your homework. And what I mean by that is that you actually do, that you learn things just as you are meant to learn them. Go through that hard work. Build that skill. Someday, someone who actually cares about, who cares about doing things right, they will need someone like you in their life or in their business because you will provide value. And that value that you've been hiding within your heart will be able to shine for the right person that can appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for being here.